brought her tea up this morning when she said, "Graham, I think the world of you." And I said, "Well, I think the world of you." And she says, "Oh, that's all right then." I said, "What's brought this on?" She says, "Nothing. This tea looks strong. Pull the curtains." Well, of course, I knew what had brought this on. She said, "I wouldn't like you to think you're not number one." And I said, "Well, you're number one with me. Give us your teeth. I'll swill them." What it was is we'd had a spot of excitement yesterday. We ran into a bit of Mother's past. I said, "I didn't know you had a past. I thought I was your past." She says, "You?" I says, "Yes. Well, we go back a long way. How does he fit in vis-a-vis Dad?" And she says, "Oh, he was pre-Dad." And I said, "Pre-Dad? I'm surprised you remember him. You don't remember to switch your blanket off." And she says, "Oh, that's different. His name's Turnbull." I said, "I know," he said. I just parked her by the War Memorial on her usual seat while I went and got some reading matter. Then I waited while she went and spent a penny in the disabled toilet. She's not actually disabled. Her memory is bad. But she says she prefers their toilets because there's more elbow room. She always takes forever diddling her hands and whatnot. When she eventually gets back, it turns out she's been chatting with the attendant. I said, "What about?" She said, "Hanging. She's in favour of stiffer penalties for minor offences." And I thought, well, we know better, our Graham and me. Oh, I wish you'd been there, love. You could have given her the statistics. Where are we going for our tea? Now, the thing about Mum is, though she's never had a proper education, she's picked up enough from me to be able to hold her own in discussions on a variety of up-to-minute topics such as the environment and the immigrant problem. And for a woman of her age and background, she has a very liberal stance. I shall read me Guardian, and she'll actually think for herself. As Dr. Chowdhury said to me, he said, "Well, in Marx and Graham, the best way to avoid a broken hip is to have a flexible mind. Keep up the good work." Now, they go mad around the War Memorial, so when we cross over, I'll generally slip my arm through hers and tow her safely across. Only once we're on the other side, she'll often postpone letting it go, because once upon a time we were stopped by one of those questionnaire women who reckoned to take us for husband and wife. I mean, Mum's got white hair. Anyway, she was pulling this stunt, and I'm going, "Mum, let go of me arm!" Now, I didn't really wrench it, only the next thing I know, she's flat on the pavement. And I said, "Oh my God, Mother!" I pick up her bag, everyone gathers round, and she sits up and says, "Oh, I've added both me stockings." I said, "Never mind your stockings, what about your pelvis?" And she says, "Oh, it's these bifocals. They tell you not to look down. I was avoiding some sick." Then a voice says, "That's a familiar voice." And I look up, and there's a little fellow bending over. Green trilby hat, shorty raincoat. "Hello," he says. "Remember me?" Well, she doesn't remember people. I know for a fact because she swore me down that she'd never met Joy Buckle, who teaches flowers in felt and fabric at me local day centre. I said, "You do know, Joy. You knitted her a tea cosy." That's all she can knit, tea cosies. And bed socks, both outmoulded articles. I said, "Branch out. If you can knit tea cosies, you can knit skiing hats." And she said, "All right, then, I will. Only you have to stand over or she'll go on leaving an hole for the spout." Anyway, I said, "You do know, Joy. You said she had some shocking eyebrows." And she says, "Oh, I hope you didn't tell her that." I said, "Of course I didn't." And she says, "Well, I don't remember." And that's how she is. She doesn't remember. And here's this little fellow saying, "Hello, do you remember me?" And I said, "No, she won't. Come along, Mother, let's get you up." Only she says, "Remember you? Of course. It's Frank Turnbull. It must be 50 years. 52, Filey, 1958. And she says, Seacrest. And he says, no sand in the bedrooms. They both crack out laughing. Meanwhile, she's still stuck on the cold pavement, so I say, come along, mother, we don't want piles. Only he says, with respect, it's not advisable to move somebody until it's been ascertained if there's any bones broken. I was in the St. John's Ambulance Brigade. And she says, yes. And who did you practice your bandaging on? They both burst out laughing again. He had on these yellow gloves. Could have been a bookie. Anyway, I finally managed to get my arms around her waist, my oyster up. Only his lordship's no use because he claims to have a bad back. And when I eventually get her restored to the perpendicular, she introduces him. Says, Graham, this is Frank Turnbull, a friend of mine from the old days. What old days? It's the first I knew there were any old days. Turns out he's a gents outfitter, semi-retired. He's got a shop in Bradford and some sort of outlet in Morecambe. Well, I thought, that accounts for the yellow gloves. Straight away, he takes charge. What you need now, Vera, is a nice cup of coffee. I said, we were just going for some tea, weren't we, Mother? Vera? Nobody calls her Vera. Not even my dad called her Vera, except that one time when he was being wheeled into the theatre. Vera. He says, right, follow me. And he slips his arm through hers. Oh, she says, careful, you'll make me boyfriend jealous. I didn't say anything. Now, the cafe we generally patronise is just that little bit different. It's plain, but it's classy. No cloths on the table, the menu comes on the slate, and the waitresses wear their own clothes as if they're doing it just for the fun of it. All the food's homemade, and we're big fans of the dates and walnut bread. Right, I said, this is the place. Mr. Turnbull sailed straight past. No, he says, I know a place just opened. Press on. Now, if there's one thing Mother and I are agreed on, is that red is a common colour. And the old place is done out in red. The lampshades red, waitresses in red, plates red, and on the tables those plastic sauce things got up to look like tomatoes, also red. And when I look closer, there's a chip in the sugar. And I thought, Mother's not going to like this. Oh, she says, this looks cheerful, doesn't it, Graham? I said, there's a chip in the sugar. A detail, Mr. Turnbull says, they're having their teething problems. Is it 3 coffees? No, I said, well, like tea. No, Mother says, I fancy an adventure. I'll have coffee. He gets a menu, and he puts his hand on hers. Might I suggest, he says, a cheeseburger. Oh, she says, what's that? It's fresh country beef, mingled with golden fried onions, topped with toasted cheese, served with French fries and a lemon wedge. Oh, she says, lemon wedge? That sounds nice, doesn't it, Graham? And I thought, well, I hope you can keep it down. Because it'll be the pizza story all over again. One mouthful and I'm still stuck there by her bedside at 4 in the morning with a bucket. I like new experiences in eating, she said. I had a pizza once, didn't I, Graham? I didn't say anything. They bring the food and she's wiring in and he says, are you enjoying your cheeseburger? And she says, I am. Would I be mistaken in thinking that's tomato sauce? He says, it is. And she says, go on then, give us a squirt. And they both burst out laughing. Careful, Graham, he says, glass cups will just see right up your nose. More laughter. Graham's quite refined, Mother says. You often have a dry sherry. Well, he wants to smarten himself up, Mr. Turnbull says. Plastic Mac, You want to get yourself one of them quilted jobs. I've shifted quite a lot of those. I don't like those quilted jobs, I said. He sweats, Mother said. Well, there's no excuse for that in this day and age, Mr. Turnbull said. The range of preparations there are on the market. You want to invest in some roll-on deodorant. Everybody could hear. And flares are anathema, even in Bradford. Graham doesn't care, Mother said. He's a big reader. I said, so what, Mr. Turnbull says. I know several big readers who also manage to be men about town. I'll tell you this, Graham. If I was squiring a young lady like this around town, I wouldn't be doing it in grey socks and sandals. These shoes are Italian. Feel. I always think Graham would have made a good parson, Mother said, feeling his foot. Only he doesn't believe in God. That's no handicap these days, Mr. Turnbull said. What do you do? He's between jobs just at present, Mother said. He was making stuffed animals for handicapped kids, and he was making paper flowers at one stage. I went to the toilet. When I got back, Mr. Turnbull said, I don't believe in mental illness. 9 times out of 10 it's just a matter of pulling your socks up. I didn't say anything. Yes, well, I do think the pendulum has swung too far, Mother said. She didn't look at me. It's like these girls not eating, Mr. Turnbull says. They'd either have been brought up like us, eh, Vera? Nothing to eat. That's right, Mother says. They got it too easy. Did you marry? Twice, Mr. Turnbull says. I buried Amy last May. I was heartbroken, but life has to go on. I've got a son, lives in Stevenage, 2 grandsons, one at the motorbike stage. Do you drive? No, I said. Oh, you do, Mother said. Like that scooter. It was only a moped, I said. Well, a moped is the same thing. I can't get him to blow his own trumpet. I've got a Rover, Mr. Turnbull says. Handles like a dream. I think the answer to mental illness is hard physical work. Making raffia mats, I'd go mad. Well, they may do pottery sometimes, Mother said. I've seen some nice ashtrays. Feather bedding, Mr. Turnbull says. Do you like these Pakistanis? Well, in moderation, Mother said. We've got a very nice news agent. Graham thinks we're all the same. I said, I thought you did. And she says, well, I do when you explain it to me, Graham, but then I forget the explanation. I'm back to square one. There is no explanation, Mr. Turnbull says. They sell mangoes in the post office. What explanation is there for that? Oh, I know, Mother says. And I smelled curry on me woman's own. You have to be educated to understand. I didn't say anything. Eventually, he runs us home, promising to give her a tinkle next time he's in the neighbourhood. Turns out he's often round these parts, hunting down 2-tone cardigans.